Greetings to those who are now joining. I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you this evening. Greetings to those who are now joining once again. Greetings to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters. Greetings to my brothers and sisters who are Moors. Greetings to you. I want to welcome you once again. Share the live. Share the live, share the live, share the live. I am Noble Gavin Matthews Bay. On this, the Dr. Matthews Bay Unfiltered. I want you to continue to share this live. Tonight's program will be a call-in program, right? To those who are now joining, share the live. Let someone know that you can call in, you can be a part of this discussion. The numbers at the bottom of the screen there, +1 917 334 4206. And may I say, WhatsApp calls only. To those who are now joining, share the live, share the live, share the live once again. Just to start off this evening's program, I want to say, without any apologies, that I want to discuss the continued status of my people. And when I mean my people, the Aboriginal people. Whether you live in the corporations of Guyana, Suriname, Brazil, Venezuela, and the Caribbean Isles, whether you live in the corporations of the United States and not America, the US corporation, United States, whether you live in the diaspora, there is a status that you live by as long as you look like me. As long as your hair is woolly in your head and the color of your skin is like me, there is a status that you live by. The status is law, which is enslavement. You live by a code, a conduct, statute, code, conduct, statutes. I want you to comprehend that. You live by a code, you live by a conduct, and you live by statutes. That statute, it is your status. So I want to divulge on it this evening because I think we are misunderstood. Yesterday, whilst emancipation was celebrated throughout the world, I have a brother called me up and he said, happy emancipation. And I said, oh, thank you very much. I said, are you speaking directly to me, or are you telling me that you're happy about the emancipation? Because I wanted to strike the conversation. And he said, no, he's telling me because since today is a holy day, which we, however you pronounce it, either holiday or holy day, it's the same way. And it celebrates emancipation. He was telling me, well, happy emancipation in the celebration of emancipation. So he said, why would you ask such a question? And I took him back to the creation of the word, the etymology of the word emancipate. And I said to him, to emancipate means to transfer the property from one's owner to a next. That's what emancipation means, or emancipate, to emancipate. That's what it means. So I said, so when I'm celebrating emancipate or emancipation, am I celebrating my transferal of my forbearance from being a property of one individual to the next? And he said, but I didn't see it like that. I said, because we don't read like that. That is why it's hard for us to comprehend, but it's easy for us to understand. And then he said, well, break it down to me some more. I said, okay. We normally hear what we'd normally say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. I said, but if we look at the sentence, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, means transfer yourself to a liberation process, because really emancipate means to transfer. Transfer yourself from slavery into liberation, because that's what the meaning emancipate means. So, and I took him back to Bob Marley's song. I said, emancipate yourself from mental. I said, in that manner, we now get to comprehend you need to transfer yourself out of the slave, the oppression, the slave system that bonds you because of the color of your skin and the texture of your hair and the knowledge that you have, which they call you Moors or Black Moor. So he said, oh, I now see. That's why I haven't seen you in the park doing a live screen or a live shoot with people celebrating emancipation. I said, there's nothing about an emancipation to celebrate. I said, but emancipation comes with reparations. I said to him, reparations. The only people who can ask for reparations is not who were enslaved, but there's those who have enslaved people can ask for reparation because their property was emancipated from them. That's how you had corporations were formed. Corporations were formed off of enslaved people. We need to see it in the process in which it was being delivered to us. So you emancipate yourself from the British colonial power, which is still enslavement, to what you call a present colonial power, which is the country that you live on. That country is a corporation. Remember, to those who are looking, I could only teach you the truth. I can only tell you the truth. I wouldn't come here and waste my time. So we need to comprehend the meaning of these words. So whilst you live on the country that you're on, that corporation, you are now a noun. A person, place, thing, or animal. And that's how they treat you. They treat you like a person. You can be sold and bought. They treat you like a place because that's what you have to build. They treat you like a thing because you have no recognition. They treat you like an animal because that's what they're breeding you for. You live within a corporation, so you're being bred. So he said to me, but how I don't hear you talk of these things. I said, because sometimes it becomes a headache. It's not an easy thing to unindoctrinate people. So the conversation went on from one thing to the next. And one of them that strike the heart of the conversation is when I hit the hammer on the nail talking about indoctrinating. I said, look, let me show you a simple example. A fraud Ali went to Berbice to be a part of the soiree celebration. You know, the night before or the pre-emancipation celebration, they have something that you call soiree. And he dresses in the African outfit. He's not African. He's not you. He's not Aboriginal. He's not an original person. He's a human being. Human means animal, being means species. So, but he dresses in that. And he went to the soiree. And he tells himself two things. He's president of the Corporation of Guyana, and he's leader of the citizens. That means he's a slave master. So he went into the quarters of those who identify themselves as African, dressed in an African outfit, and participated in the soiree celebration. It's a message that he's sending you. I don't care how you look at it. I look at it one way. Everybody else can look at it in whichever way they would like to. But I cannot deviate from the message. I look at Mansour Nadir, who speak of the National Assembly, who dressed himself in an African outfit in the pre-celebration of emancipation. And then he reduced and denounced the fact that the members of parliament on the AFC decide to say to the Speaker of the National Assembly, why don't you put off parliament for another day? So the celebration of a people in identifying their culture can be adhered to. He said, no, you cannot expect a man who did not grow or weren't brought up in an oppressive situation, whose ancestors were not enslaved. You cannot expect him to adhere to the culture of a people, because his culture is completely and totally different. I say that to say this, that can you imagine the government of the Corporation of Guyana hold a separate event at the Sophia Exhibition Center in honor of emancipation? They're trying to take away the celebration of that African, as the so-called African event, from the national park, from the hands of AGDA. Spend money to tell you, well, they're going to bring different artists, different persons who can stand and who can talk about African culture, that was enslaved. That's a form of indoctrination, because the only thing they can identify to you is the enslavement of a people. But the people were here before them. That's the facts. Some of us, we don't like hear the facts. And some of us doesn't have a culture. We depend upon the European or Europeanization of indoctrination to form a culture. And because my people do not have a culture, they do not have a status. You have a status quo, something that becomes a rule for you and not for those who created the rule. Show you a simple example. Now you're celebrating emancipation. What are you celebrating? Are you celebrating African culture? Or are you celebrating an enslaved being children of an enslaved people? What really are you celebrating? Are you celebrating the transferal of your culture to the Europeanized colonial culture? Or are you celebrating the transferal of a colonial culture to what you call present-day enslavement of the Corporation of Guyana? What exactly are you celebrating? That's a question that's been asked. Do you know whence or where you came from? Do you know your own culture? Are you depending on Ministry of Education to teach you that you were brought on this continent as slaves? No, sorry, your ancestors were brought here as slaves Unto this day, they cannot identify the date of your arrival, but they can identify the date of everybody's arrival. Something has to strike a match and tell you something different. But you see, the noble Gavin Matthews Bey is not the same person that he used to be. Because when I get on the airways or I get on my media platform, I talk the different things because I'm controversial. I do not be politically correct. I do not be systematically correct. I open you up to the truth. It's up to you to follow. You know, the conversation even continued in such a way that we even started talking about the arrival of all ethnic groups. And mind you, the person that I'm speaking to is a teacher by profession. And as a matter of fact, that person teaches mathematics. That although the person is a teacher by profession, the person identified all the different areas that I'm talking about. But the person said there is a curriculum by the Ministry of Education that he or she, who is a teacher, has to follow. They can't teach outside of that curriculum. That means it's a continued indoctrination. Because I'm still asking the question, what are you celebrating? What is the meaning of emancipation? Do you really comprehend that? Do you really comprehend the etymology of what I'm talking about? These are supposed to be the questions. And then the answers that he was asking me, he said, well, enlighten me. Where are we from? I said to him, let me take you down a side that you will never forget. I said, can you tell me the meaning of Guyana? He said, they were taught that Guyana is the land of many waters. That's the meaning of it. They say it's an indigenous word, but we're going to get to that just now. And I said to him, doesn't Guyana kind of rhymes with the word Ghana? Then he said, kind of. He said, but is it Ghanaian? I said to him, Ghana means the people of the golden age. Ghana means the people with the golden tips of arrows that lived in that dispensation in that corner of the African continent that are called Ghana. Hear me? To those who think that I'm not telling them the truth, go fact check it. Ghana means the people of the golden age. Ghana means the people who carries the arrows with the golden tips made out of pure gold. Come to the American, remember now, the continent of Africa and the South American continent is only about, by boat, is roughly about 3 days traveling. By plane, takes you about what? Under 2 hours. It depends on which part of the continent you're going. If you're traveling from Brazil or if you're traveling from Suriname, that will take you straight to the African continent. Follow the stream that will sail you up and down that channel. So come to the South American continent. It is the same people who occupy the South American continent or the Americas, North, South, and Central America. And they name that particular area Guyana. It means the same thing. People of the golden age. Now look at Guyana. That came from the word Guyana, because it was British Guyana, G-U-I, but the pronunciation is different. not Guyana. It is Guyana. Guyana means people of the golden age. Look at Guyana. It has been reduced as we go by. It's called it watered down, but it still means the same thing. But Guyana, the flag of Guyana, means what? The golden arrowhead. So I'm thinking, this thing, it doesn't mean the same thing that they taught us about, because the golden arrowhead means the same at the tips of their arrows or the tips of their spears are of gold, because they use that to pierce whatever they're hunting. So you got to study now, because it's coming to pass. The golden arrowhead. And what is the highest honor within the country of Guyana that can be bestowed upon a citizen by the president? The Cacique Crown of Honor. And then you study, Cacique. What is a Cacique? A Cacique is an Arawak chief. Then things started pointing back to you again. But when I was in school, they taught me that the Arawaks and the Caribs used to be fighting all the time, and I wonder why. And now I'm going to tell you why. The Arawaks looks like me. Christopher Columbus, in his journal that his son forwarded in, that's in the British Museum today, talked about he touching down in the Isles of Hispaniola, which is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Haiti, as a matter of fact. Touching down in the Isles of Hispaniola and meeting the indigenous people that are like dark as midnight, or they had a name, they call them the Swarty people. And then you started studying what message really is being sent here. So the highest honor in the Corporation of Guyana is the Cacique Crown of Honor. The flag is named the Golden Arrowhead. Guyana derived from the word Guyana. Guyana means the people of the golden age in the American language. And then everything started fitting together as a puzzle. So were we really here all the time? And then people are saying we were brought here as slaves? Yes, we were here all the time. They tried to enslave us. They tried to hunt us down. So those who they found, they shipped them off to go to certain places. Those who they defeated. So who was the Arawaks really? Arawaks. Same thing. People of the golden age. So then I started doing some more digging. And I put up with the Serene people from Suriname, who some call the Juka, which is the last one of the last dispensation of the original Arawaks. Then I started studying again. Well, then where can I find these Arawaks? Look at their trademark. The trademark is that they used to live upon the basin of the Orinoco River, around the basin of the Orinoco River, because that's where they hunted, they planted, they lived. So when the Corporation of Guyana was now being formed, the Arawak said, hey, brother, you can form your corporation, but stay off the Orinoco River. And if you check it, that's where the fight between Venezuela and Guyana is, because the Orinoco River sits in the region of the Essequibo. But the Arawaks told them, look, if you step over upon we territory, we can hunt you down. And if you check the native Arawaks of the Venezuelans, brother, you might wonder if it's Gavin Matthews reborn again. Gavin Matthews B, just reborn again. You're like, man, these brothers look like you. You know, it was a very long conversation yesterday because it hurts me to see that the level of indoctrination that our people goes through and the level of oppression to keep the indoctrination. And because my people doesn't comprehend who they are really and where they're from, they are being forced to accept a culture until to this day that is oppressive, that enslaves them, that deep racism is formed against them. Even the laws of the corporation were so designed to oppress them some more. Acts, codes, conducts, and statutes because of the color of your skin. And these little boys, y'all got to run around the place talking about who's president and give them some chance to speak upon what. Have they ever lived a life one day as a black man? Have they ever went through oppression? Have they ever went through systematic slavery and racism? No, they have never went through that. They have never experienced that. So why must they wear your clothing? Why must they wear your emblems? And why must they tell you what your culture is if they have never went through that? If you want to celebrate something, leave the people alone. Because when I'm being serious, some people say, man, but we just celebrate one another culture. I don't celebrate nobody's culture because so far as I'm seeing it, my people culture has been taken from them for over 500 plus years and keep counting. It's still counting. Now it's systematic. You either be a religious person or you either be an enslaved individual based upon some kind of political comprehension. I mean, let's get serious, brothers and sisters. These people parading around this place talking about representing you, they cannot represent you. If they're representing you, why are they treating you as a third class and a fourth class citizen? Why are they treating you like animals? Why are you still begging them to survive? Why do you have to line up in a line to go to a ministry to receive a piece of property? Why do people have to come to the corporation in which you are a part of and enjoy the benefits that they have never struggled their lives to create? And you're struggling on to this day. You're building and struggling to put food on the table and to build the country that you hold dear to you. And other persons, other ethnic groups are coming from different countries into your country, into your corporation, upon your plantation, and enjoying the benefits that you're supposed to enjoy. Think about it. A man coming from Bangladesh as a nurse or as a doctor, we got nurses and doctors in this country, in the country of the Corporation of Guyana, and having a piece of lot with a house in it, which is a property, and having benefits that you have never enjoyed. We got pensioners lining up in line on every end of the month for the new month to withdraw pensions, and they're living in some devastating positions. They have worked all their lives building up the Corporation of Guyana. This is their reward. And you got people who have never ever slaved themselves to participate in the building of Guyana. Never. And they're coming to enjoy your benefits. What is that? Is that emancipation? That's what you're celebrating? Or you're celebrating the part where you're still a slave, but you're being transferred to the system of Guyana to enslave you some more? Because that's what it is. We got some slaves receiving a $15 million contract, and then still telling you that they're living the best lives, on the top of the world. And you got some people who never, their foreparents never came here as slaves. They came here as indentured laborers, some come as brokers, some come as all sorts of things. And they're driving a donkey cart, friend, and they're receiving $2 billion, $4 billion contract. Is that your emancipation? Huh? So that you eat some crumbs and you feel, well, you're on top of the world, you're living your best life. I heard someone today on the live stream all the way from the US saying that all Guyanese want is a proper place to sleep, good food to eat, and benefits. That's all they need to survive. Like, seriously? That's all you think Guyanese want? I don't think so. I want what is mine. I'm not a Guyanese anymore. I'm indigenous and I'm Aboriginal or original, one out of the two. I'm not Guyanese. I'm not enslaved anymore. I don't work for the fiat currency. I don't work. I don't have a job, because job means to be oppressed. That's what it means. There's certain things I don't do because I'm serious about me. I want what is mine, the land of my ancestors, the land of my foreparents. When everybody came to these land, they met someone. When the Mongolians came here, who are now called Amerindians, when they crossed the Bering Strait, some of them call it the Ice Bridge now. They're teaching the children in school. When they came here, they met the Arawaks. That is who they met. The Arawaks. The Guyana, land of the golden age, the El Dorado in Spanish means the golden city, the people of all the gold, the golden age, the great Atlantis. That's why you have the Atlantic Ocean. You know, and we kind of sit down and allow this to fall off the shoulders because you know, you cannot comprehend. It's like you're trying to balance. What else more must you do to be recognized? Well, hey, I did the best part of it. I liberated myself. I am now called Noble Gavin Matthews Bey. That's not a name. It's my status, it's my allodial rights. Noble Gavin Matthews Bey. The Bay attaches itself to the land, which is called the Americas. Capiche? In that liberation process now, I'm no longer Guyanese. And I make sure that that has to be resonated constantly. Everywhere I go, I walk with my MATD, my Moorish American travel document, and my affiliation card. So people cannot be confused of who am I really? And I said to them plain, don't call me black. Don't call me nigger. Don't call me African. All these names, all these status and names given to us to identify us because you do not have a culture. You check it. They call you African for a reason. They call you black for a reason. They call you nigger for a reason. Can you identify your culture? No. They teach you that your culture is witchcraft. They say Obia is witchcraft. It's your culture. Let me tell you this. The word obey, O-B-E-Y, derived from the word O-B-E-Y-A. That means obia, as they say. It is so evil. The word obey came from it because that's what it means in Swahili. Obedience to the laws of nature. So as the calling of Wudong, which is now called voodoo. They're trying to tell you that that's witchcraft. And who practice it? The Chinese. And look where China is today. Look where the Chinese is today, how prosperous they be because they practice your culture. They practice your spirituality. And for you to know it, they're selling you it back. Seriously. Think about it. What really were you celebrating yesterday? Emancipation? I haven't seen that culture that I'm just talking about. I see some Christian people wearing some pieces of cloth that seems to be African. Like, we got to get real. You check it, every other culture or every other ethnic group practices their culture. They practice their spirituality, and they live by it. And that's their identification. What's wrong with yours? Nobody's saying that we mustn't talk to them, but do you know your spirituality? Do you know your culture? What really were you celebrating? Emancipation from what? Who or what were you emancipating yourself from? Were you transferring yourself? Because that's what it means. Getting back to the real deal, the real talks. I would appreciate if you call in. Call in. Let's continue this conversation. The number's at the bottom of your screen. Call in WhatsApp call, and I'll answer the call right here. Because we need to comprehend the differences and what is facing us as a people. When I told the brother, I said, look, I'm not a human being. And he said, well, why would you say so? There's lots of human beings that what are you asking for when you talk about human rights? It's animal rights. They treat you like an animal because you identify yourself as an animal. And he said, no, you gotta bring me over. I didn't say that I'm an animal. I said, but the word human means to be an animal. Being means to be species, so you're an animal species. You're a noun. So he said, well, if you're not a human being and you're not a noun, what are you? I said, I'm a verb. I'm a living soul. My heart never took a time out to breathe and to start back again. Because I know from then till now, everybody's heart who took time out never came back. You comprehend what I'm saying? I said, when you're a human being and you're an animal, you now are being dictated to. You're being directed to. You have rules that you have to function by. You now become a citizen. You become a product. And you now have to work hard to protect the product of the state, the property of the state, which you are. You have to have an insurance. You have to have an ID card. And here, all these things supposedly have an expiry date. So that means they can unalive you at any particular time. You check. When you go there to protest and they send the police, and the police come with a loud hail and they said, please disperse according to the orders of the president. You will be removed by force if necessarily. And they're warning the animals to move. And if the animals don't move, what do you think happens after then? Gunshots ring out. People are wounded, some are dead. Then there's no satisfaction given to you. You can remember the time at Hillfoot, at Tomeri, an Arawak word, Tomeri. It's an Arawak word. You remember at Hillfoot, Tomeri, when Superintendent Singh got on his set and he said, hooligans and thugs are out here causing public disturbance. Do you know what's a thug? Thug. It's a Hindi word, means agent of evil, agent of the devil. That's what a thug means. We got some little ones walking down the street with the thug life mark, little red rag out of their pockets, and the thug for life, dunce thug, all these words. They don't even know what they are embracing, and the police comes there to settle them because they're an animal and they're a thug. One, you're an animal, and two, you're a thug. So you have to be treated as one. And if I have to take your life in the process, that's it. Can't complain. By law, police has the right. Remember, I was in the same program saying to you that the president is above the law. The president, by executive, he's a chief law enforcement officer. The president, by rights, can unalive you. Remember, I was on this same program talking about Jack Joe in his term from 2000 to 2012 or 2010. 1,480 Guyanese Aboriginal men or black men lost their lives, and no one gave an account for it. Unto this day, the president, who is the chief law enforcement officer, must be responsible for those lives. But the law says he or she cannot be charged for crimes he commits in or out of office. That is dictatorship. It's your slave master. He's trying to tell you fall in line and be a good slave. If you fall out of line, you'll end up like the 1823 movement, where over 2,000 slaves lost their lives because they are a property of the state. Yes. To those who are looking, yes, that happened. They had a bicentennial celebration. They chopped their heads off and put it on stakes at the parade ground. That's why it's called Parade Ground, where the Burnham Court is. As a matter of fact, all that area where State House and the Promenade Gardens, Newmarket Street, Lamha Street, Kwamina Street, going way back to Ivleria, all those areas were the parade ground. And they lined their heads on stakes all around that area. Whose head couldn't be chopped off? They were hung because they rebelled against the system that has meant to enslave them. And I want to give you some more evidence to those who are looking. You know, I got a brother who texted me early, said, man, and I know you're into this black thing, but we got to know politically what's going on in Guyana. I said, brother, politically, you really want to know politically what's going on in Guyana? As long as you do not know yourself, you will be oppressed. As long as you do not know, look, I want to show Guyanese who are looking the simplest information. The majority in the Corporation of Guyana are the so-called black Guyanese. The PPP does not have a constituency anymore, even if they had then to claim a look, because of the influx of indentured laborers caused them to outnumber those who were slaves. And this is a rhythm they keep using all the time. They keep using that algorithm And you who now sits down, won't like read nor write nor check facts. Say, boy, you know what we're talking is truth, you know, and people more than we. No, they're lying. They're not. And I keep saying it over and over. They do not have a constituency. Don't depend upon my words. Let's look at the last election when they had the recount in 2020. You could imagine, subtract 17,560 votes. Subtract that from which the PPP claim they win from. Those 10 ballot boxes that they found on the East Coast. It has no bearing documents. It didn't have no validity to it. They couldn't find 17,000 people to vote for them. So they had lost the elections by 3 seats because it's 5,000 per seat. 5, 10, 15. 3 seats. Considerably. You know what's the most insulting thing? I can show you insult now from my past. The local government elections are gone. They shared out over 15,000 ID cards to the Spanish-speaking people from Venezuela because they said, oh, they got Guyanese heritage. You know how much of them voted in the local government election? 27. What an embarrassment. In areas that the PPP hold on to for years, lost that local government election, especially some places in Berbice, because they ain't got people. It's not people ain't come out to vote, you know, friend. They ain't got people to vote for them. So they continue to give the Spanish-speaking people who are from Venezuela Guyanese national ID card. You know what they're doing from since they receive it? They're going to get the passport, and soon as they get a passport, they line up at the U.S. Embassy. Long lines. They're going to the U.S. legally. So they switched to the Bangladeshis. You know what's happening to the Bangladeshis? They're going to Suriname. You know for what reason? Because they're thinking of entrance to the Netherlands through Suriname. Europe. That's where they want to go. Nobody is staying. So the only thing left for Drug Must Flow do, and I call him Drug Must Flow, the same rat, is to try to seep into the African communities and try to rub them politically, give them the fiat currency, and let them do the inevitable, sell their birthrights. So the PPP can claim some kind of gain at an electoral ballot. They tried it in the local government election, $9.5 billion of your money that they spent. And they lost it. It's just 3 major towns. Don't let me fool myself. 3 major towns that are in 3 particular regions. Region 4, which is Georgetown, which Georgetown is in Region 4, the district, the township. Region 10, which is Linden, the township again, and New Amsterdam. The thing is that all these townships is where the majority of the population lives. And they lost those 3 townships. They struggled in Region 3 at the NDCs. That means to say that, and they tied in Bartica. That means to say that, you know what? The APNU, PNC can win an election any particular time. But here was the problem. Identifying yourselves, knowing who you are and standing up for what you are. That is the problem. The continued status of my people by a system that takes away your rights and continues to take away your rights. Come on, my people. See the facts in which it's been given to you. It is hard. It is long. It has been around for hundreds of years. Are you going to still allow your children to come up in such a system? Or are you going to say, oh gosh, Gavin, there's nothing I can do about it because I got to study my pension? What pension? These people are selling you. That's how they gain their pension. It is your thoughts, your ideas, your lives that they trade on the stock market. For those who have a birth certificate, they will know, and they don't know, you best check it. Your name was gone around the world and come back, but 3 dozen times at a price that is sold because you have a name. You either be a person, place, thing, or animal. And when you're a person, place, thing, or animal, then you have to live by codes, conduct, statutes. Yeah. Because you're a product. Acts, codes, conducts, and statutes, excuse me, please. You have to live by those things. And then they go to the court system, which is a maritime court, and they discuss the acts that you're governed by, like how they went there on the 30th at the Caribbean Court of Justice. A lot of us didn't know that that was going on. They were discussing you as a people, as an elected individual to the parliament. They were discussing your electoral viability. They were discussing if by the office in which you run and you win the election, if you're qualified to sit in parliament. You could imagine that case is before the Caribbean Court of Justice. And I was listening to Mr. Ford and the PPP lawyer who was representing him. I think he's a Trinidadian also too. They were discussing that. And they're taking advantage of your civil liberty. Well, not me. I'm liberated. I don't need liberty. I don't need justice. I myself is justice. Because the violation is not going to be easy. I said it many times on this program since 2 years ago. I'm willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to my people. And that is always my intention. But not because I'm willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, I will just go and give it up. No, brother. Sacrifice is that the people must know the truth. And the truth must always flow at all times. A lot of them don't like it. I know that. And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of Indian brothers and sisters who sometimes pretend. It's okay. But I got a lot of them, and they compliment me on the work that I do. There are those who are genuine, and there are those who are not. They just heal me up because they see me. I know it's the amazing thing. They take time out to talk to me. But when it comes to my brothers and sisters, oh, they run. Matthews, he's sitting next to me. I gotta look around for see who walking in the government ministry, sit down next to you. I might lose my walk. Gavin Matthews. But it's no longer Gavin Matthews. It's Noble Gavin Matthews Bay. And to those who always watch, I know that some persons are still frightened to engage themselves. But you got to continue to engage yourself. That's the only way that things are going to work out for you. You got to continue to engage yourself in this discussion. Let's talk about it. Seriously, let's talk about it. One brother said, but how can I liberate myself? What kind of documentation I get in his own Ghana national ID card I got? I said, simple. Just allow everything that you have to expire. Your driver's license. If all the guidance, let's say if 60% of the registered people in the Corporation of Guyana refuse to renew their Guyanese documentation. Well, then there is nobody for the government to govern. Jack de flow, drug must flow, and air fraud. Ali got nobody to govern. Where the Guyanese? Can you identify them? Everything done expire. Who are there for you to govern? Nobody. Is there a country? No, because the people are identified as Guyanese. That is why Guyana is available. But if the people cannot identify themselves as Guyanese, well, then there's no Guyana. It's just strictly indigenous people. So who are you there to govern? You see the process of liberation. You see how easy it is. But if you fight to keep being enslaved, well, then I comprehend. I realize that you can't do anything else better than that. So I'm saying to you, with all the shadow of a doubt, that you, the people, have to be conscious of who you are and where you're going. You have to be conscious and stop being a continuous status, my people. You have to liberate yourself from such tyranny. It is very hard. I know what I'm saying. The other person said, but I see you cover some AP and UPNC coverage. I said, yes, because that's the only party that I can see representing my brothers and sisters. So I have to send a message through them. Because if this is how it works, it got to be done some way or the other. Because people cling to my people cling to the PNC, AP, and U. That is why you're being oppressed by a government who does not like you, who was charged over you for no reason at all. When you look like you and understand your culture, suddenly they were put there. Look at the top bracket. And then someone says, oh, well, Mark Phillips is the prime minister. Like, oh my God, you're like, yeah, come on. How can a man sit there and see that his people are being oppressed and still turn around and say, oh, there's no oppression going on again? Well, something is definitely wrong with him. I know if it's his salary getting me confused, or I just don't know. Stop the oppression among yourselves. Stand up to dictatorship. Stand against it and prevail yourself from racism. I know what I'm saying to you guys. I am Noble Gavin Matthews Bey, and I'm happy every time I come to you with this program just to edify you and help you to stay strong and be careful with who you get into contact with. I'm always happy to come to you live with the truth and to have this discussion. And let's have this discussion, continue to have this discussion as a people so we can continue to bring truth to life. I say again, I am Noble Gavin Matthews Bey, and I'm happy to be here on a Dr. Matthews Bey Unfiltered, and to those who continue to share it. Stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. Don't forget the little ones you take into public places. Greetings, Cheerios, and good night.